At 10 a.m., the sound outside my door was so faint that I almost ignored it, a slow, dragging shuffle across the floor, as if someone had lost all their strength. When I opened the door, I froze. My son was standing there, shoulders trembling, lips bleeding, eyes swollen with pain he could no longer hide. He tried to speak, but his voice cracked. And then he broke, collapsing into my arms as if he had been holding himself together for far too long. In that moment, I knew something terrible had happened, something that had finally destroyed him from the inside. For months, I had sensed a weight on his heart, a heaviness he never explained. He would smile, but his eyes looked empty. He would say I'm fine, but his hands shook when he lifted a cup. That night, as I held him and felt him trembling against my chest, I realized that whatever he had been hiding was not small. It was something that had shattered everything he believed about his marriage, his trust, and his life. This story isn't just about a broken marriage, it's about a truth that my son was too afraid to face, a secret his wife hid so carefully, and the night it all came crashing down. It's about the pain a mother feels watching her child fall apart, and the strength it takes to help him stand again. It's about betrayal that cuts deeper than any wound, and the moment a man realizes that love can sometimes be the very thing that destroys him. Tonight, you will hear what really happened before that knock at 2 a.m. You will learn the secret his wife was hiding, and you will see how one night changed the course of my son's life forever. The night my son dragged himself home began like any ordinary night, quiet, still, the kind of silence that makes you feel the whole world has fallen asleep. I had just finished my late-night prayer and was about to lie down when I heard something outside. At first it didn't sound like footsteps, it sounded like someone dragging something heavy along the floor. Slow, uneven, almost painful. I froze, listening carefully. Then came a soft, broken knock so weak it felt like the person knocking wasn't sure they even had the strength to lift their hand. I opened the door, expecting maybe a neighbor or a stray dog scratching against the wood. But the sight that greeted me stole the breath from my lungs. My son stood there, my firstborn, my gentle boy, his body bent forward, his clothes dirty and torn, his hair wet with sweat, and his eyes swollen as if he had been crying for hours. For a second he just stared at me, trembling, then his legs gave out, and he collapsed straight into my arms. I caught him before his face hit the ground. His body was cold, terrifyingly cold. When I touched his cheek, he winced from pain. His breath smelled faintly metallic, like blood. I could feel my own heartbeat racing out of fear. Mothers have a strange instinct. The moment I held him, I knew this was not the result of a simple argument or stress from work. This was something deeper, darker, something that had been eating him alive silently for a long time. I whispered, "Beta, what happened? Who did this?" But he didn't answer. His lips moved, but the words died before they came out. His eyes closed, and he went limp, completely unconscious. For a moment, I panicked. I shook him, calling his name again and again. I slapped his cheek lightly to wake him up, but he didn't respond. I screamed for help, and the neighbors rushed out. Together we lifted him and placed him in my car. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely start the engine. On the way to the hospital, every red light felt like a lifetime, every second a punishment. I kept looking at him, terrified that he might stop breathing. When we reached the emergency room, the nurses took him inside. The doctor asked me to wait outside, but I pushed forward, refusing to move. "I'm his mother," I insisted, my voice breaking. "I'm not leaving him." They allowed me to stand in the corner while they examined him. When the doctor gently lifted my son's shirt, I felt my stomach twist. There were bruises, blue, purple, yellowing, old and new. Scratches on his back. A cut near his ribs that looked several days old. His hands had red marks, like he had tried to protect himself from a blow. His eyes, God, his eyes, even closed, they looked exhausted, swollen from crying too long. The doctor looked at me with a seriousness that made my knees weak. "Has your son been under extreme stress?" I nodded silently. "Has there been any domestic conflict?" My heart skipped. "With his wife?" The doctor didn't answer. Instead he said, "These are signs of emotional collapse and physical trauma. Something has been going on for a long time." For a moment the room felt suffocating. I had known something was wrong for months. A mother always knows. Every time he visited, he looked thinner. His smile had become forced. He avoided eye contact when I asked about his marriage. He always said, "Everything is fine, Amy," but I could feel the lie even before he said it. Seeing him lying there now, bruised and broken, I realized how deeply he had been hurt and how well he had hidden it. Hours later, when he finally regained consciousness, he looked around with real fear, as if he expected someone to burst into the room and hurt him again. When he saw me sitting beside him, he relaxed slightly. His hand reached for mine, trembling. "Amy, please don't make me go back," he whispered. His voice was so weak, so defeated, that my heart shattered into pieces. I stroked his hair gently. "You don't have to go anywhere. You're safe now. Just tell me what happened." He closed his eyes, tears rolling down the sides of his face. "It's been happening for months. I just didn't want to worry you. I wanted to scream. I wanted to shake him and ask him why he hid something so painful from me. But I stayed quiet, waiting for him to speak. For a long time, he didn't say a word. Then, slowly, he began to talk. He told me that the first few months of marriage were peaceful. His wife was polite, sweet, caring, at least on the surface. But as time passed, she changed. Subtle at first. She criticized his clothes, his job, his salary. She told him he was too kind, that he wasn't strong enough, that he acted like a child. Whenever he tried to express his feelings, she mocked him, called him dramatic. In the beginning, he thought she was stressed. He blamed himself, believing he wasn't fulfilling her expectations. He worked longer hours, tried to earn more, tried to be everything she wanted, but no matter what he did, she wasn't satisfied. Instead, she became colder. She stopped talking to him. Stopped sleeping in the same room. Stopped showing any sign of affection. He said, "Amy, I felt like I was living with a stranger, or worse, an enemy." Then the controlling behavior began. She demanded access to his phone. Not to build trust, but to interrogate him, every message, every call, every notification. If a female co-worker texted him about work, she would explode in anger. She would accuse him, insult him, threaten him. She kept his salary card. She scolded him if he spent money without her permission. She even restricted him from meeting his friends. He said, "I felt trapped, suffocated. Like I was losing myself." But the worst part, the secret that destroyed him, was still to come. One evening, he came home early from work. He found the house silent. Then he heard her voice coming from the bedroom, soft, affectionate, almost loving. It was a tone she never used with him anymore. He assumed she was talking to a friend until he heard the name. Her ex-husband. A man she claimed was completely out of her life. A man she promised she had cut all ties with. A man she swore she never wanted to see again. My son told me he felt his heart stop. His hands went cold. Each word she spoke on the phone felt like a knife. She laughed, flirted, spoke about meeting him again, spoke about missing him. My son stood outside the door for several minutes, frozen in betrayal. He didn't confront her that day. He was too shocked. He wanted to believe there was an explanation, something innocent, something logical, but over the next few days, he found more messages, late-night chats, voice notes, pictures, plans, promises. It was clear she had been living a double life. He finally confronted her after 2 weeks of emotional torture. He said he couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, couldn't focus at work. His mind kept replaying every word she said on the phone. When he confronted her, she didn't break down. She didn't apologize. She didn't even pretend to be sorry. She laughed. Right there in front of him. She looked him straight in the eyes and said, "I never loved you. I married you because my family forced me. He is the only man I want." My son said he felt something inside him crack, like a part of his soul shattered. He told her he still loved her. He begged her to stop contacting the ex. He said he wanted to save the marriage. But she mocked him. She called him weak. She said he was boring, predictable. She said he wasn't man enough like her ex. Each word was a slap. Each insult wound deeper than the bruises on his body. Then came the night that almost killed him. He found another message, this time not just affectionate, but intimate. She wasn't planning to leave him someday, she was planning to leave him that week. She was arranging everything behind his back. He confronted her, heartbroken, shaking, unable to breathe through the pain. She snapped. She screamed like she had gone mad. She threw objects at him, a mug, a glass, whatever she could pick up. One object hit him on the side of his head. He stumbled, fell against the corner of the table, and collapsed. Blood dripped down his forehead. He said he felt dizzy, like the entire room was spinning. But she didn't help him. She didn't even ask if he was okay. She opened the door and screamed, "Get out. I don't want you here. Go die somewhere, for all I care." My son tried to stand, but his legs gave way. He crawled to get his bag. She kicked it toward the door. When he begged her not to do this, she shouted that she would call her brothers to beat him if he didn't leave immediately. So he left. Broken, bleeding, alone, he walked barefoot for a long time before he found a road. He walked miles through darkness, dragging his tired body, wiping tears that wouldn't stop. He said he didn't even know where he was going. His mind was numb, his heart destroyed. But somehow his feet brought him home to me. Richard's breaths were uneven as he sat on the wooden chair near the fireplace, his head buried in his palms. The room was dim, lit only by the flickering orange glow that made the shadows dance across the walls. Outside, the rain had started again, tapping rhythmically on the window, a familiar, haunting sound that now felt like a countdown. Michael stood silently near the doorway, unsure whether to speak or give his father space. It had been nearly 20 minutes since Richard finished telling the shocking truth about the past. And yet the weight of it still crushed him like fresh grief. Michael finally stepped forward. "Dad, you didn't do anything wrong." Richard lifted his eyes, red, swollen, defeated. "I should have told you earlier. I should have told her earlier. Maybe none of this would have happened." Michael swallowed hard, looking at the staircase that led to Emma's old room. "You said Mom tried to tell me something before she died. What was it?" Richard's body stiffened. His fingers curled into fists, nails digging into his palm. "She wanted you to know she wasn't leaving us. The night she died, she was on her way to pick you up from school. Not running away like people claimed." Michael felt his breath get stuck. For years he believed the lie, that his mother had walked out on them. All because one rumor had spread like wildfire. She left after fighting with Richard. She couldn't handle the marriage anymore. Someone saw her running toward the station. Michael's jaw trembled. But why didn't you tell me? Richard's voice cracked. Because you were little, and because I was ashamed I couldn't protect her. Michael closed his eyes, absorbing the pain. Everything suddenly made sense. His father's strictness, his emotional distance, the quiet nightmares he never explained. He finally understood the reason behind Richard's bitterness, but the silence was broken by the shrill buzz of Richard's phone. Richard glanced at it and felt a chill run down his spine. It was Linda, Michael's wife. Michael stepped forward quickly. Don't answer it. But Richard already had. Richard, her voice trembled. On the other end. I know Michael told you everything. But I swear I didn't mean for things to get this far. Michael's face hardened. Put it on speaker. Richard did. Linda's voice cracked, desperate. I never wanted to hurt him. I made mistakes, but please don't let him leave me. Michael clenched his jaw, staring at the phone as if it could shatter. You didn't make mistakes, Linda. You lived a double life. A pause, rain pounding, silence stretching. Linda gulped. I'll explain everything if you meet me. Please, I can't say it over the phone. Someone might hear. Michael narrowed his eyes. Who? Who would hear you? Her voice dropped to a whisper. Someone who's been following me. Richard. And Michael exchanged stunned looks. Following you, Richard repeated. Linda's voice was tiny, shaking. Yes. 4 weeks. I thought I could handle it. But tonight, he came to the house. He threatened me. He said if Michael ever finds out, he'll kill him. Michael's heart skipped. What? Who came to the house? Linda exhaled sharply, panic rising. I can't say it over the phone. Please, come to Willow Creek Church. The old abandoned one near the highway. I'm hiding in the basement. Michael hesitated. Was this another lie? Another manipulation? But then they heard it, a loud crash on her side of the call, followed by Linda's terrified scream. The phone cut. Michael's blood froze. He grabbed his jacket. Richard stood up quickly. You're not going alone. Michael shook his head. No. This started with me and her. Let me end it, but Richard's tone was firm, almost commanding. I already lost your mother because she went alone. I'm not losing you too. Michael's eyes softened, the first father-son understanding in years. They both rushed out into the stormy night. The road to Willow Creek Church was almost completely deserted at that hour to 3:14 a.m., with rain turning into a merciless downpour. The wipers struggled to clear the windshield, and thunder rolled over the mountains like a warning. Michael stared out the window, his mind spinning. Linda terrified. Someone threatening her. The secret finally exposed. But a darker thought kept pushing into his mind. What if this was a trap? Richard seemed to read his thoughts. You think she's lying? Michael bit the inside of his cheek. I don't know any more. I thought I knew her. I trusted her. I built a life with her. Richard nodded slowly. And now, Michael looked down. Now, I feel like I don't know who she is at all. They arrived at the old church, a tall, broken structure surrounded by dead trees and an intimidating silence. The building had been abandoned for almost a decade after a fire damaged its roof. Half the windows were shattered, the large wooden doors cracked and swollen from years of rain. As they stepped inside, their footsteps echoed loudly on the stone floor. Lightning illuminated the interior for a split second, dust-filled air, broken pews, scorched pillars. Michael whispered, Linda, no answer. He led his father deeper inside until they reached the entrance to the basement, a rusted metal door slightly ajar. A faint sound drifted out, crying. Michael pushed the door open and rushed down the stairs, Richard close behind. They found Linda sitting on the cold floor, her knees pulled to her chest, mascara smeared, lips trembling. When she saw Michael, she broke down helplessly. "Michael, thank God, I thought he would come back." Michael knelt beside her but kept a distance. Who's after you?" Linda looked between him and Richard, then finally whispered, "My ex-husband." Michael froze. "What?" Richard spun toward her. "You're married." Linda wiped her tears quickly. "I was. Years ago. Before Michael. I left him because he was violent. Controlling. He almost killed me once." Michael felt sick. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because he promised he'd find me if I ever told anyone. He said he'd destroy the man I loved." Richard's face twisted. "And tonight," Linda trembled harder. "He came to the house. He had a knife. He told me he'd been watching us for weeks." Michael swallowed. "This entire time, the secrets, the lies, it wasn't an affair." Linda shook her head aggressively. "No, the messages you saw, they weren't a lover. They were threats." Michael felt dizzy. Thunder crashed above them, and at that exact moment, footsteps echoed upstairs. Slow, heavy. Linda gasped. "He's here." Richard immediately moved to the stairs, shielding Michael and Linda, but Michael grabbed a metal rod lying near the wall. The footsteps came closer. A shadow appeared at the top of the stairs. Richard whispered, "Stay behind me." The figure began descending, each step deliberate, cold, echoing in the hollow basement. Michael tightened his grip. Linda sobbed silently. When the figure reached the bottom, lightning flashed through a cracked window, revealing a tall man, drenched in rain, eyes wild with anger. Linda whimpered. "That's him, Jonathan." Jonathan's lips curled into a twisted smile. "So you finally told him." Michael stepped forward in a fury. "You came to my home with a knife." Jonathan hissed, "She belongs to me." "She always has," Richard growled. "She's not your property." Jonathan raised a hand. "You should have stayed out of this." Before anyone could react, Jonathan lunged at Michael. The basement erupted into chaos. Jonathan slammed into Michael, knocking him backward. The metal rod slipped from Michael's grip and clattered across the floor. Michael tried to push Jonathan away, but the man was fueled by madness, stronger, unpredictable. Richard didn't wait a second. He charged forward, grabbing Jonathan by the collar and yanking him off Michael. But Jonathan was fast. He swung his elbow back, hitting Richard in the ribs. Richard stumbled, gasping in pain. Linda screamed, "Stop! Please!" Jonathan shoved her aside, sending her crashing against the wall. Michael saw that and something inside him snapped. He surged forward, ramming Jonathan with all his strength. Both men fell to the ground, rolling, punching, tearing at each other. Jonathan managed to get on top, grabbing Michael's throat. Michael choked, clawing at Jonathan's arm. Richard staggered, trying to get up. "Michael," Jonathan hissed between clenched teeth, "it should have been you who died, not me." Michael's eyes widened. "What?" Jonathan leaned closer, whispering something that sent ice down Michael's spine. "Your mother didn't die accidentally. She died because of me." Time stopped. Jonathan smirked. "I was the one driving that night. I saw her crossing the road. I didn't brake." Michael's breath disappeared. Everything collapsed inside him. Rage exploded. With a surge of survival instinct and fury, Michael twisted his body, breaking Jonathan's grip. He reached the fallen metal rod and struck Jonathan across the face. Once. Twice. 3 times. Jonathan fell back, dazed, blood streaming down. Michael stood over him, shaking with fury. "You killed my mother and came after my wife," Jonathan laughed weakly. "Your wife came to me willingly once." Michael's eyes went wild. Richard stepped in, grabbing his son before he lost control completely. "Michael, don't ruin your life. He wants you to snap. Don't give him that victory." Michael dropped the rod, chest heaving. Jonathan tried getting up again, but this time Richard stepped forward. Not to fight, but to end it the right way. He pulled out his phone. "Police are already on their way. I called them when we came in." Jonathan's expression twisted. "You old fool," but it was over. Sirens wailed outside. Flashlights swept through the broken windows. Officers stormed in, dragging Jonathan away as he screamed threats. Linda collapsed to the floor in tears. Michael knelt beside her, still shaking. Richard finally sat down, exhausted, yet relieved. The nightmare that had started years ago, the secret that destroyed Michael, had finally been dragged into the light. Hours passed. By sunrise, the 3 of them were sitting on the church steps, wrapped in blankets from the paramedics. Linda leaned toward Michael timidly. "Will you ever forgive me?" Michael stared at the horizon, the first light brightening the sky after a long, violent night. "I don't know," he whispered honestly. "But I know one thing, you should have trusted me." Linda nodded, crying silently. Richard placed a hand on Michael's shoulder. "I'm proud of you. You faced everything tonight, the present and the past." Michael exhaled deeply. "Dad, thank you for coming with me." Richard's eyes softened. "I wasn't going to let history repeat itself." The sun finally rose, warming the cold morning. The storm was over, outside and inside their lives. Michael stood up slowly. He wasn't healed. He wasn't whole. But for the first time in years, he was free. The sun had fully risen by the time Michael reached home. The storm clouds were breaking apart, leaving streaks of gold across the sky, the kind of peaceful morning that felt impossible after the violence of the night. But life had its strange ways of balancing chaos with calm. Michael pushed the door open slowly. Every corner of the house reminded him of the hurt, the lies, and the fear he had lived with, but also of the strength he discovered in himself. Strength he didn't know he had. He walked to the living room and stood quietly, staring at the cracked picture frame lying on the table, a photo of him and Linda, back when everything looked perfect. He touched the broken glass gently. Perfection had been a lie. But the pain had taught him truths he should have learned long ago. Trust wasn't just given. It was earned. And secrets had the power to burn even the strongest bonds. Linda entered the room, her eyes swollen, hands shaking. "I'm so sorry, Michael, for everything. For the past I hid, for the fear that controlled me, for not trusting you to protect me." Michael didn't move for a long moment. Then he finally spoke, voice calm but heavy with emotion. "You didn't ruin my life, Linda. But the truth you hid, it destroyed the picture I thought we had." Her tears streamed down. "I just want a chance to fix things." Michael took a slow breath, the kind that felt like letting go. "I don't know if we can go back," he whispered. "But maybe we can start again, if you're willing to start with the truth." Linda nodded desperately. "I'll tell you everything. No more secrets." For the first time in months, Michael felt a small, fragile sense of peace settle inside him. He wasn't healed, but he was finally ready to heal. Richard entered the doorway quietly, watching his son with a proud, bittersweet expression. He had seen Michael break, shatter, and stand back up again, stronger than ever. "You handled everything better than I ever could have," Richard said softly. Michael turned to his father. "I had you with me." That made all the difference. Richard smiled, a smile Michael hadn't seen in years. The past had haunted them both. But last night, it had finally lost its power. Michael stepped out onto the porch. The morning breeze brushed against his face, gentle, fresh, new. He closed his eyes for a moment, letting the light hit him. For the first time since childhood, he felt like he could breathe. He whispered to himself, "I'm done living in the shadows." Behind him, Linda stood silently, waiting. Ahead of him, his father waited patiently. And in the middle, between the past and the future, stood Michael. Bruised, hurt, but unbroken. He turned back toward them and walked inside. Because this time, he wasn't walking alone. Fade out, the storm ends, a new life begins.